Greetings, everybody. Welcome to Liberty Call. Today is Monday, May 22nd, 2023. Hope everybody's having a fantastical day out there. Keeping my voice down. My wife's taking a nap in the guest room, so I'm trying to keep she says I talk too loud, so I'm trying to keep this extra quiet today. So, like I said, hope everybody had a great weekend out there in the interwebs. It's pretty overcast here in Colorado. There's a bunch of smoke coming down from, I think, the Canadian Rockies. And looks like Beijing. I was up in Denver this morning, and it is foggy and gross and nasty, and smells like burnt wood everywhere outside. So anyways, pretty good weekend for my Astros. Woohoo! They swept the A's, and they swept the Cubs before that, so they're off to Milwaukee today. So set your DVRs accordingly. If it's your first time watching Liberty Call, I'm glad you're here. Please give me some thumbs up, likes, shares, subscribes, follows, all that good stuff. I'd greatly appreciate it. And let's go ahead and jump into the numbers for today. So let me make that a little larger for you. The Dow Jones today was down 0.42%, 140 points, closed at 33,286. S&P 500 was flat, up 0.02, closed at 4192. NASDAQ was up 0.5%, closed at 12,720. The VIX was up 2.38% today. It's currently at 1721. Canada was up 0.27%. Brazil was down 0.48%. And Mexico was down 1.7%. Over in Europe, Germany was down 0.32%. UK was up 0.18%. France was down 0.18%. Netherlands up 0.07%. Spain up 0.58%, Italy down 0.76%, Switzerland down 0.15%, and Portugal down 0.8%. Russian exchanges were split. The MOEX was up 0.27%. The RTSI was down 0.08%. And the overnights in Asia, starting up the Nikkei in Japan, it was up 0.9% for the day. Australia down 0.22%, New Zealand down 0.69%. And in China, the Shanghai was up 0.39%. The Shenzhen Component up 0.32%. China A50 up 1.11%. DJ Shanghai up 0.46%. Hang Seng up 1.17%. And the Taiwan weighted was flat at up 0.04% for the day. All right. So, again, it seems like everyone's just kind of sitting on their hands waiting for bad news to happen. So we shall see what occurs with the debt ceiling and all the stuff there. And then, there's another Fed meeting coming up in June, I think. So we'll see, what they decide to do, whether or not they're going to, continue to raise rates, which I personally think would probably not be the worst idea. But, if they start, if they do a pause, definitely if they start lowering rates, the market's going to react positively short term. But, we'll just be right back in the same vicious cycle we've been in for the last 2 or 3 years, because we were due for a downturn. They had held it off and held it off and held it off with low interest rates. And when interest rates were starting to go up in 2019, you started seeing a lot of problems in the financial world, stuff behind the scenes that most regular folks really aren't aware of. But anyways, we shall see what happens. All right, let's go to the weekly economic update. Stocks rallied last week, propelled by growing optimism over reaching a deal on raising the debt ceiling and avoiding a technical debt default by the U.S. The Dow Jones Industrial Average was up 0.38%, while the S&P 500 gained 1.65%, NASDAQ was up 3.04%, and internationals lost 0.47%. Possible debt deal. After stumbling on weak April retail sales and a combination of disappointing earnings and weak guidance from a major retailer, stocks moved higher midweek as the news on the debt negotiations turned more positive. The prospect of an agreement helped to lift a cloud of uncertainty that had weighed on markets in recent weeks and sparked sufficient optimism to shake off comments by the Dallas Fed president, who indicated that the economic data may not support a pause in rate hikes yet. Yeah, we just talked about that. Aiding in the market's upbeat mood was a positive update on deposit growth at troubled regional banks. Stocks surrendered some of the week's gains on Friday following a report of an impasse on debt talks and comments by Fed Chair Powell. Housing is mixed. Recent updates have suggested that the housing market may be staging a turnaround after a long period of contraction. Last week's data contained some fresh evidence of a revival and caution that any potential recovery may remain further out. The first positive sign was an increase in home builder sentiment that put the National Association of Home Builders Housing Markets Index confidence level at the midpoint for the first time since July of 22. An unexpected 2.2% rise in housing starts in April followed. These encouraging reports, however, were followed by a disappointing 3.4% decline in April existing home sales. This week's economic data: Tuesday, we have the Purchasing Managers Index Composite and new home sales. Wednesday, we have the FOMC minutes. Thursday, we have gross domestic product and jobless claims. Friday, consumer sentiments and the personal income and outlays and durable goods orders. Companies reporting earnings this week. Today on Monday, we have Zoom. Tuesday, we have Lowe's, Palo Alto Networks, AutoZone, and Intuit. Wednesday is NVIDIA, Analog Devices, and Snowflake. And Thursday, we have Costco, Marvel Technology, and Workday, Inc. All right, so that was everything in the weekly update. Some good stuff there. Let's jump on over to the market recap for today. Dow sheds 140 points as investors await debt ceiling deal. U.S. stocks traded sideways on Monday as investors awaited clarity on the outcome of the debt ceiling negotiations. President Joe Biden and House Speaker Kevin McCarthy were meeting to reach an agreement with a deadline to raise or suspend the debt ceiling approaching rapidly. The potential for a default has raised concerns about the impact on financial markets. The uncertainty surrounding the debt ceiling negotiations coincided with the upcoming Federal Reserve meeting in June, where policymakers will decide on the next move regarding interest rates. The majority of futures traders expect the Fed to maintain rates at their current level in June to assess the progress of their actions. St. Louis Fed President James Bullard projected 2 more rate increases this year, while Minneapolis Fed President Neil Kashkari expressed support for a pause in June. The Fed will closely monitor the personal consumption and expenditures index for April, a key inflation gauge, when it is released on Friday. President Biden cut short his Asia trip after the G7 meeting to return to the U.S. and finalize the debt ceiling deal. Meanwhile, China banned certain sales of Micron technology chips to key industries, citing national security concerns, causing a 2.8% drop in Micron sales. In another development, European Union privacy regulators fined Meta Platforms Inc., the parent company of Facebook, $1.3 billion for sharing user information with the U.S., leading to a 1% increase in Meta shares. Let's see here. Corporate news. Chevron announced plans to acquire PDC Energy for $6.3 billion, and Ironwood Pharmaceutical revealed plans to purchase Vectiv Bio for about $1 billion. Shares of PDC Energy rose about 7%, while Vectiv Bio saw a 36% increase in its shares. Overall, the stock market remained cautious as investors await further developments on the debt ceiling negotiations, while keeping an eye on the upcoming Fed meeting and key economic data. All right, so again, just kind of hot, cold. It's kind of medium right now. It's not too hot. It's not too cold. But again, I caution you, there could be some rough rapids ahead of us going down this river as the year gets longer in the tooth. So again, be careful, folks. All right, one last article here comes from our friends over at First Trust. Brian Westbury wrote this. It's titled Agents of Change. All right. The common message delivered to graduates urging them to be agents of change, and that's in quotes, and engage in social activism raises some concerns. This approach assumes that students should be dissatisfied with the status quo and focus on the negatives, injustices, and perceived or real problems in the world. However, it neglects the importance of recognizing and conserving what is already good. While the call to protect the environment resonates with most people, the idea of changing or reimagining the United States raises questions. The country boasts a high population, wealth, and income per person, attracting individuals from around the world. The blessings of property rights, freedom of contract, democratic governance, I wouldn't go that far, and social institutions that foster individual rights should not be casually dismissed. Yet the academic class often urges graduates to dwell on transforming society rather than appreciating its strengths. The desire for change may stem from the status anxiety of the intellectual class, which most of them work in colleges because they can't get real jobs, which perceives itself as less prestigious than those in business and other fields. It may reflect the notion that something must be seriously wrong with a society in which others have more recognition and influence. However, instead of dismissing their message, it is worth considering the lessons from our country's founders, who were agents of change while preserving and expanding freedoms developed in Western civilization. There are areas within the education system that are ripe for change, such as introducing widespread school vouchers to break up government-run primary and secondary school systems. Additionally, requiring colleges to take a stake in the students' loan repayments could incentivize them to provide a valuable education. Yeah, if the school was on the hook for whether or not the person actually paid it back, they probably wouldn't be offering such crappy majors and, bird calls and basket weaving and lesbian dance theory and all that crap. Embracing these changes while preserving the dynamic free market economic system can foster positive transformation, reducing poverty and increasing incomes. Entrepreneurship plays a crucial role in driving change as it constantly improves and builds upon existing systems while governments often make mistakes. While the U.S. may face potential economic changes, graduates embracing change that conserves the best aspects of society and addresses government failures can contribute to the next long and strong bull market. It's essential to strike a balance between recognizing the need for change and appreciating what's already good, ensuring a prosperous future while preserving the foundations that have contributed to the nation's success. I wouldn't call it a nation, I'd call it a federal republic, but that's just me. I'm very particular about words and what they mean. All right, well, that's everything I had for today. If anyone needs anything from me, please go to dsafinancialgroup.com. All my contact information's there. Hope everyone has a wonderful evening, and I'll talk to you next time. Adios.